Hi there everyone, it's Russell. Welcome to the Reading Fabricator, and today I'm going to do another short story review. I think this is my second one after George Sanders, and it's going to be one based on the 9-story collection by J.D. Salinger. It is A Perfect Day for Bananafish, which in my mind is one of the greatest short stories ever written. It's probably my top 5. A very, very short one. I mean, it's 17 pages long, and you can read it in under 15 minutes, I guarantee you that. It was my introduction to J.D. Salinger. I'd always been put off by his work because of The Catcher in the Rye, but I found Franny and Zoe and Raise the High Beams, Carpenter's Seymour and Introduction, and the 9 Stories. 9 Stories was actually my first foray into his work, and I was sold on him immediately. It is a fantastic collection of short stories. Very short, it's a very short book. And I mean, I think I spaced it out, so I read like one story every day, and it gave me time to dwell on it, to think about it. There was a lot of themes going on here, particularly surrounding the fictional Glass family. A lot of his stories feature characters from the Glass family, like Franny and Zoe, and Seymour, who's the main person in this short story, A Perfect Day for Bananafish. And I do think it was published in 1948 to absolute high acclaim. It was compared to F. Scott Fitzgerald. I mean, there were so many people out there that just were hooked by his stories. He's a fantastic person of the English language. He's able to conjure things with words, place sentences together that are just. There's nothing flowery about his language, but he can really emphasize certain situations in that. He's really good. And the short story itself was one that shocked me. When I reread it I was able to see, precursors leading up to what would eventually be the final paragraph, which is what's quite shocking. But the first time I read it, I didn't know what was coming, and it was quite interesting to see how I go about rereading something now compared to many, many years ago. The story itself, featuring Muriel Glass and Seymour Glass, married couple. It's divided into 2 parts. So the first section is Muriel on the phone to her mother, and in this phone conversation, it's entirely a phone conversation. You sort of pick up on things about Seymour. It seems as though there's a lot going on, that he's quite disturbed in the mind psychiatrically, that the war pretty much just did something to him, and he wasn't quite himself. It's heavily implied that he was released from a psychiatric hospital and was discharged from the army, and that he might have some serious psychological problems. But it's never detailed outright in the short story. But through this conversation, especially on my reread, I was able to pick up on a hell of a lot more. So that just shows that there's a lot more value in rereading his short stories than I initially thought there ever would be. But through this, you find out a lot more about especially Muriel herself. You find out that she's a bit self-absorbed. She's wealthy and self-absorbed, which is a complete contrast to when you meet Seymour, which is in the second part of the short story. He's alone. He's in a desolate location on the beach. He seems to have withdrawn from society. He doesn't want to be a part of society anymore. He just doesn't see it as a place worth living. So you obviously get the sense that the war has really just destroyed him, mentally as well as physically. But the second half, after the conversation on the phone with Muriel and the mother, shows a girl by the name of Sybil, who runs down the beach and finds him, and they sort of get together. They go into the ocean, and he pretty much brings up this fake fish by the name of a banana fish, a fish that eats bananas, that eats lots of bananas, and dies of a disease based on bananas. And unfortunately, some people, especially I saw on Goodreads, some people have attributed this to him as being a sexual predator. I did not read into that at all. I just think it was just him trying to, dispel some enjoyment with a kid. And it is a wonderful section. I mean, I purely read that section on a basic surface level. I just saw it as someone who was just trying to provide a sense of joy to this kid, just a sense of wonder, and it works. She's fascinated by the whole idea of Bananafish, but it's what happens afterwards when he leaves the beach, leaves Sybil, goes on this like elevator, escalator, what do you have it, goes up to the next floor. And while he's on there, he has this awkward moment with a woman there, where he keeps staring at her feet. And then it gets to the part where it's in his room, and it's like one page. Oh, sorry, I take that back. The man, Seymour, accuses the woman of looking at his feet, but the whole thing takes place over about one page. And I'm going to read the last final page to you now. If you're a stickler for spoilers, then I suggest pausing this or stopping this and going and actually reading it, because you can definitely find a PDF of this online, and it is only 16, 17 pages, so you can read this in under 15 minutes, I guarantee you that, and it's well worth your time. But I'm just going to read the final page to you. The young man put on his robe, closed the lapels tight, and jammed his towel in his pocket. He picked up the slimy, wet, cumbersome flout and put it under his arm. He plodded along through the soft, hot sand toward the hotel. On the sub-main floor of the hotel, which the management directed bathers to use, a woman with zinc salve on her nose got into the elevator with the young man. "I see you're looking at my feet," he said to her when the car was in motion. "I beg your pardon," said the woman. "I said I see you're looking at my feet." "I beg your pardon, I happen to be looking at the floor," said the woman, and faced the doors of the car. "If you want to look at my feet, say so," said the young man, "but don't be a goddamn sneak about it." "Let me out of here, please," the woman said quickly to the girl operating the car. The car doors opened and the woman got out without looking back. "I have 2 normal feet and I can't see the slightest goddamn reason why anybody should stare at them," said the young man. "5, please." He took his room key out of the robe pocket. He got off at the 5th floor, walked down the hall and let himself into 507. The room smelled of new calfskin luggage and nail lacquer remover. He glanced at the girl lying asleep on one of the twin beds. Then he went over to one of the pieces of luggage, opened it, and from it, under a pile of shorts and undershirts, he took out an Ortg's caliber 7.65 automatic. He released the magazine, looked at it, then reinserted it. He cocked the piece, then he went over and sat down on the unoccupied twin bed, looked at the girl, aimed the pistol, and fired a bullet through his right temple. I mean, I was absolutely shocked when I read that ending. And the signs are there. You can read into it based on the part 1 section of the short story with the conversation between the mother and Muriel. But I mean, I still, the fact that it was, you just heard me say it there, it's not flowery prose or anything. It's direct, it's straight to the point. It is as straight as a bullet, no pun intended. It's blunt. It is extraordinarily blunt at how he depicted the situation. And that just makes it even more hard-hitting in my mind. And that ends what I consider to be a perfect day for Bananafish. To my mind, is a perfect short story. It really is. But what's truly great about it is it's made me want to go and read the rest of the 9 stories. Go back and reread everything to experience his work once again. There's a person out there a frequent commenter on my channel, Joe. Hi there. You've convinced me to read The Catcher in the Rye, and by reading Catcher in the Rye, I will have completed all of J.D. Salinger's published work. So I'm probably going to give it a shot, actually, and that'll be one of my future reads. So I'm looking forward to that one there. Yeah, that will finish my journey with J.D. Salinger. Unfortunately, he didn't publish much in his lifetime, unfortunately, but yeah, if you're looking for a starting point for Salinger, then by all means read 9 stories, and in particular the very first story, A Perfect Day for Bananafish. I don't think you'll regret it. I think you'll really like it. I know I sure as hell did. So this has been a very short review of a very short story. Hope you like it. Thanks very much. Catch you on the next one. Bye.